All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. My name is Todd Brous. I'm your host for the evening. I'm here with Susan Schultz and Ashley Wilson, and we would like to welcome everyone to HBAP Startups. So let's get started. For those of you who are new to the Startups group, we have a few announcements that we do at the very beginning of each meeting. We will do some short can't speak, some short networking breakout rooms, and then we'll come back together for our main event. First off is our mission. We are here to foster and fortify an innovation and entrepreneur community coming out of the Harvard Business Analytics program. And our goal is to provide our members with the tools, knowledge, leadership, and confidence necessary to create and grow their businesses from the ground up. Susan.
And as most of you know, there are plenty of ways to get and stay in touch with us. So we have our website. We have the YouTube channel where, as long as we have permission from the presenter, we post our recordings. We have the newsletter, so definitely sign up for that. You'll get some notifications about stuff coming up. For those in HBAP, we have Slack channel, entrepreneurship, and then of course, bring a guest. And also, if you know of anybody that you think would like to come speak to us or would like to come practice a pitch or anything like that, let us know. We're happy to have people come. And then always a reminder, these are posted publicly on YouTube, so be a bit thoughtful about what you say. And then we've got quite a few things coming up and more in the pipeline. So next week is the social. And then the week after that is Dr. Rena Gajar, who you may remember, she actually won the HBAP pitch competition for her Minis for Me company, which was making makeup accessible to more groups of people, especially less advantaged people. And now what she's done is started a new company that's focused on improving the dental industry because that's where she comes from. She is a prosthodontist, which so that's somebody that does crowns and a teeth replacement and things like that. So she wants to come to us and talk about her new company and get our feedback. So it's going to be a pitch session where we ask her questions and give her feedback on her new company. And then on April 16th, Nick Petsis, another of our own, and he has done this really cool thing of combining oratory and debating mastery, one of his big loves and expertise, with data and analytics. So he's going to come and talk to us about that. And then on the 23rd of April, there were many of you and additional people that asked for, can we have a workshop on what Jeremy and Steve and Adolfo and I talked about several weeks ago about how do you actually do this thing called customer discovery. So we're going to hold a workshop that night and actually have you do some hands-on stuff to see how you can learn how to do that better. And then on May 14th, Doug Schultz, yes, he is a relative of mine, came to us a couple of years ago to talk about his startup factor.io. And since then, he's had a pretty interesting journey with definitely big highs and pretty big lows. And he's going to come talk to us about that. So kind of a 2-year reunion with him. And so lots of cool stuff coming up. Todd.
Technical difficulties. My bad. Sorry about that. Here we go.
All right. And then just a reminder of our code of conduct, right? You've heard our mission. Todd talked about our mission. So it's really to create this really fun, cool place where we can come and talk to each other and debate each other and listen to each other and learn from each other. So definitely an inclusive environment of collaboration and trust. And so just a reminder that all rights are reserved by the presenter. And we really try to stick by the rule of give positive feedback that really just works better for the presenter. Lots of research that shows that that's the best way to do it. And then always a reminder, no personal recording of our sessions so that we honor the presenter's rights. And then if you've got a cool idea or you've got a speaker or you've got something that's worrying you, just come and reach out to Todd, me, or Ashley, and we will help you with whatever it is.
All right, let me, I think I got this working. Again, technical difficulties. So folks, little breakout rooms for everyone. About 5-6 minutes. I'll see you in a few.
Okay.
Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. I hope everyone had fun in your breakout rooms.
Good
Before I
times.
forget, before I forget, please, as a little reminder, when you exit Zoom this evening, you should see a little pop-up in your web browser. It's a survey. Please fill out the survey. Give me some feedback. We need the feedback. We need the data. We're data analytics people. Without data, we become distraught, sad, lost, and depressed. Help save an analytics person. Fill out and give them data. Save a tree, kill a beaver, fill out the damn survey. Just another reminder, the recordings will be made public if this goes well, but please do stick around for some overtime because we will continue this conversation till the wee hours of the evening if you want to stick around. So please do stick around for some overtime. It's one of my favorite parts of the evening. It is my honor to introduce tonight's speaker. Susan, help me out here. Me, Todd Brous, I'm not an AI avatar, at least I don't think I am. Let me stop sharing here.
Let us unmute ourselves.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Our own Todd, a nice big round of applause. Yay! As is our custom.
Thank you.
That's
I really, really appreciate that. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Todd. All right, let me share my screen. Gosh, I hope is this thing working? Yeah, I have an is this thing working slide because Todd humor. Just live with it. Go with it. Follow me. All right. So tonight we are going to talk about transformation effects, navigating the new era of artificial intelligence. Hopefully this will go. This is the second time or third time I've actually presented some variation on this. Donna's camera died. I can't even right now. But before I forget, I do like to start off some of my presentations with a little bit of artificial intelligence news. I've got my web browser available, but I also have some slides. Let me just do some slides. We can come back to this if you folks want to stick around for overtime and some of this stuff. Gemini, in case you haven't heard the news, Gemini 2.5 just dropped yesterday. This is a very, very good large language model. It has taken over the lead in the LM arena. It is Gemini 2.5 Pro experimental March 25th. They just kicked the butt right here. Go play with it. I highly suggest you do. You can use it in Gemini.com, or sorry, is it Gemini.google.com? I never use that. I'm always using AI Studio. Yeah, Gemini.google.com, or you can use it in Google's AI Studio. And if you want demos, we can play with it after in overtime. In other news, DeepSeek also released a new version 0324 of their version 3 model that's also kicking some butt, which kind of gives us an indicator that their DeepSeek R2 should be coming out within the next few weeks. So keep an eye out for that. Also, and again, this is really for the nerds in the room, is Qwen 2.5 Omni. This is another new Qwen model that was just released. And also they have a vision language model as well, a 32 billion instruct model. So real fun stuff from the folks over at Qwen. And excuse me, lastly, OpenAI just released 4.0 image generation. So for my students in the room who use image gen, this is a new tool that you are going to want to play with. It's really good. So here's an image that I did in Midjourney of myself. Here's one that I did earlier today in the style of Rembrandt. And for the HBAPers in the room, you will understand the impact of Rembrandt because that was one of the classes that we did, one of the first sessions we did at HBAP. That's a portrait of me in the style of Rembrandt. And I got to tell you, I think that's really good. Also, I love Mark Awada, who's another HBAPer. He's a researcher at Harvard's D Cubed. He gave me his image, like, make me into a Rembrandt, because I did that for Kareem and David Parks using older versions of the tools, and this is what it came up with. It's really good. So that's it for the news. Also, just for those of you in the world, please do connect with me if you are not already connected with me on LinkedIn. Here's my link tree, so you can click on that stuff. I also have some swag, so please go buy an HBAPper t-shirt or something. Money definitely helps at this point. Okay, so last week we discussed the concept of mutually assured AI malfunction, or MAME, which is a deterrence regime resembling nuclear mutually assured destruction, where any state's aggressive bid for a unilateral artificial intelligence dominance is met with preventative sabotage by their rivals. So if we try and get superiority, the Chinese, this was their example, the Chinese will attack us, and they will sabotage our ability to get there before they do. That was an incredibly depressing concept. I read through that paper a couple of times to really get the meat of it. And so tonight, I'm really going to try and provide some leadership towards a much brighter future. Hopefully, we will get there. Um, and just a little bit, I guess this is important. I'm biased. I have many strong but weakly held beliefs. I do follow the evidence and the data, and I do try to question everything. For those of you, that should, like, a little hashtag Bayesian statistics should ring a bell there. And I believe that this is the most exciting time in human history. Um, so the goal for tonight is to get everyone here thinking about how to look into the future. And I'm hoping that you can get out of your boxes, expand your minds, preferably without drugs, but you do you. Many of you may disagree with me on a lot of these points. That's okay. I'm absolutely here for you emotionally when you finally do come around. I promise it's going to be okay. We are entering the beginning stages of a post-labor economy, and that is unsettling. So depending on your industry or your roles, early adopters of these technologies are going to have an advantage. So I recommend that people get on with this today. There are strategic second mover advantages as well, so you can wait and look at what other people are doing. I don't recommend this approach at all. I am like, let's learn how to use this stuff right now. So the bottom line is that the AI bomb has already exploded, and we're just now beginning to feel that blast wave. So there are a large number of AI effects that are happening right now, and some of them are micro, some of them are macroeconomic, macroscopic. I'm working on a book to discuss all of these topics. These are some of my chapters. And you heard me talk about a lot of these things at startups. And tonight, we're going to dive into transformation effects. Transformation effects describe the entirely new ecosystems, the new industries, the new business models, preferably the new jobs, and the new tasks that will arise due to generative AI and agentic AI. Um, I'm not going there, Jose. So this is the transformation effects fundamentally changes the nature of work, the economy, and the social contracts that people have with the societies that they live in. Many businesses and people struggle to wrap their heads around what this means and what strategies and tactics should they use to adapt to this technological change from agentic AI and generative AI. Oh, excuse me while I cough my lungs out. So something Wayne Gretzky said about skate to where the puck is going and not where it's been. This is not easy to do. Don't look at where we are today. Look at where we are going and how quickly we're going to get there. And that's the acceleration effects. Knowing how things are changing in it, it's hard to look into that future. And uncertainty is really, really high. There's this event horizon of a black hole that many folks really struggle to see past this. What does it mean? What's the future going to? Where are we going as a society? What am I going to do about my job? There's this black hole, this event horizon that we cannot see past. But I think we can, and we have to really change our mindset to get there. No drugs. And it requires a vision of the future, an entrepreneurial mindset, if you will. And again, this is startup, so I do have that entrepreneurial mindset. That desire to bring the inevitable future to the present. That's what one of the things that entrepreneurs do. We have to have that vision. So the question is, how do we shine a light into this black hole and make some sense of where the hell everything is going and what's going on. So some context, how do we get there from here? Well, we can't get there from here. We got to go someplace else first. So where are we right now? Uh, you've all heard me talk about this. I love to quote Karim Lakhani. We go back to him for insight all the time. The marginal cost of cognition and creativity is dropping to $0. And I ask my students, many of you who are here tonight, thank you for coming, what exactly does this mean? And have presented this slide. We've talked about it over and over and over again. But in a nutshell, the AI curve here is where we are right now, that the cost of cognition and the cost of understanding stuff is practically nothing. It's marginally nothing. So if you have access to these technologies, for almost no money, you can understand anything. You can create almost anything. Now, again, how much of that is in question, and it depends. But humans, we're expensive. Humans with AI reduces that cost. But I want to point out something that many people miss on this graph, that AI is still less expensive than humans with AI. So whatever it is that we want it to do, it's going to be less expensive than having a person do it. That's where we're going. So better, faster, cheaper, and safer. And how do we get here? Like what needs to change for in the world for this vision to happen? Better, faster, cheaper, safer. These are the metrics that we need to look at to consider. So if we can do something better, if we can do something faster, cheaper, and safer, those are the places that we need to consider and look. That's incredibly compelling. Excuse me, coughing again. So AI is a quote from Ethan Mollick. AI doesn't just automate existing tasks, it changes how we can think about work itself. And again, this is the future of work conversation. And whenever we want to talk about work, I always like to quote Mary Erdos, who's working towards getting rid of no joy work. And this was from a May 7th leading an AI conference at Harvard Business School. She said this quote, yes, it's a little out of context, but that was the goal. They are working towards getting rid of no joy work. And what is that no joy work? And who gets to decide what is no joy? Well, you're not the one deciding what's no joy. It's, can we automate the thing that you're doing? That's the decision here. So Walter Frick said that the new work is the key to how technology affects the labor market, and whether or not it works out well for workers depends on whether society can invent new things for them to excel at. And I'm just concerned that are we actually seeing this right now? And I think probably not. Well, maybe it depends. There's some things that are new, but we need to talk about that. And I've got some slides later on so that we can address this. So if new work is the key to how the technology will affect the labor market, what path are we on? And I would argue that we are on a completely new labor market path here. That post-labor economy is one of the possible outcomes that we're looking at. It'll take some time to get there, but something to think about. And I guess as an aside, that also implies a new social contract that society has to have with our governments, with ourselves, with what it means to be a person and a human and living in this age of AI. The internet wasn't just a better way to do phone calls, and electricity wasn't just an alternative to gasoline lighting, gas lamps, not gaslighting, the other gas. So I thought this was a really good quote, and I forgot what I was going to say about this. But just keep that in mind in terms of like, okay, we now have new ways of communicating. We now have new pieces of technology that really we have to think about the future, that black hole, that event horizon with electricity. How do we envision what that future could be? And it requires a slightly different mindset. So Michael Hammer argued that old processes should not merely be automated, that they should be reimagined from scratch. And I really like that idea that like, however your business works or however your job works, hey, is there a way that we could automate and reimagine this and think from a first principles perspective, how we could rebuild this process or this job or this business or this industry or this ecosystem, that's the transformation effects. So stop paving the cow paths is really interesting, meaning like we should just let the cow paths stay. But I think that there's an and here, and I think that this is also an opportunity, meaning if you see a cow path, go automate it. go see how you could, this is the opportunity, how could we use agentic AI and reimagine what the purpose of this cow path is? How are the cows, I'm a cow, like how am I working through this problem? And that, so to me, that's an opportunity. So go pave the cow paths and replace them with better, faster, cheaper, and safer if you can. Okay, next slide. So I've talked about this a lot, so I'll go through this quickly. Things are changing exponentially faster. That's the acceleration effects. I have, from one of the previous sessions, I have a lot more slides, so I'm going to skip them. But this intelligence explosion from Leopold Aschenbrenner, like, whoa, okay, we're in this confidence interval, and I think this is getting pushed earlier than later. Also, Ethan Mollick, who is absolutely one of my heroes, presented this lovely little graph that OpenAI's O3 model outperforms a human PhD expert in their field who has access to Google. So imagine you've got a PhD and you're asked to solve a problem and you can use Google to solve your problem. The AI is outperforming that expert. So what are we talking about here? Okay, so here's what you need to know. AGI is here. I'm calling it. Okay, so maybe not. Maybe it depends. Like, what was it last week? The AGI ARC Prize just came out with a new version. Why? Because the old version, which was supposed to be the one that AI was never going to be able to do, well, they solved all those. So they now have to come up with a whole new set of metrics and tests to see the AI get better and better and better. We're there. Okay. Everything is still fuzzy and it's good at some things and not at others, also known as that jagged frontier. This is the Navigating the Jagged Technological Frontier from Fabrizio Dell'Acqua and Ethan Mollick and Karim Lakhani. So I love this slide, but keep in mind that jagged frontier, that the section of AI where it's good and where it's bad, some tasks it does well, some tasks it doesn't do well, that's expanding outwards exponentially faster. So if it's not good today, wait 3 hours. like that's basically what we're looking at right now. Also, in other news, this paper from Fabrizio Dell'Acqua, his latest research, just came out on March 21st. So here's a very, very good read. Please do read it. There will be, today's Wednesday, there'll be a quiz on Friday. And I don't have have all of the graphs in my appendix, but I just wanted to show this. This figure displays the average quality scores for solutions across different groups, showing the relative performance of AI treated versus non-AI treated groups with standard error. Yeah, team with AI, great, they're doing really well. And then team with AI, this is the time saving in minutes. So it's better, faster. All right. So tonight, okay, here we go. Transformation effects. And you've heard me say this. This is the stuff that makes me drool. This, again, refers to the creation of those entirely new ecosystems and industries and business models and roles and tasks. And this is all being caused by generative AI and automation and agentic AI. And this is that fundamental change to work and the economy. Better, faster, cheaper, safer. That's the vision. That's the goal. Those are the metrics. So what does the world look like? Well, when the smartest person you can hire is not a human. That's the world we live in today. Right now, the smartest person that you can hire, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a CEO, is not human. The only question is, how are you hiring that AI and what does that AI do and how are you using that AI? That's the issue here. So what can we do? What happens to our society? Don't worry, it's all going to be okay. What's the future of business look like? What are the future ecosystems? What are the future of your industry? And it all depends on your industry. There's some people who are in healthcare, some people in legal. Hi, Donna. You know, like there are laws, there are regulations, there are cultural aspects to each and every industry that will determine how this plays out over time. But the reality is the smartest person you can hire is not a human. So now y'all know what B2B is and B2C. So B2B, for those of you who don't know, is business to business. Many businesses sell services or products to other businesses. And then there's B2C, which is business selling products to a consumer. C stands for consumer, so consumer products. Well, we also have, and now we need to imagine the transformation effects of A to A, A to A, A to A, agent to agent. Wait, there's going to be an economy based off of agentic AI? Yes. Yes, there is. This is part of the transformation effects. This is a new economy with, again, new ecosystems, new businesses. So agents doing business with other agents. I want you to put on your science fiction thinking caps and let's peek into that event horizon of what the agentic AI actually means and how this is going to start to play out. So I keep saying agentic AI, and I just realized I kind of skipped a slide. I removed it from this on what is an agentic AI. Um, but these autonomous AI agents can augment human work, but they can also are independent economic actors. That they're capable of performing tasks and making decisions. You give them a mission or a goal, and they will go and perform and solve that mission to whatever level of metric that you approve. They'll engage in transactions with or without, or really I should say without a human intervention. Um, so imagine an interconnected network of agentic AI of agents that can operate across whatever domain and collaborate and solve complex problems and drive massive amounts of efficiency at scale. No humans need not apply. So imagine this these decentralized networks that of agents so that can possess the ability to transact freely, and they can also evolve their own AI models and buy and sell digital services or even physical services, robotics, and that marks that fundamental shift to autonomous services and how they can function. Um, so, we're talking about this new economy that, and that seamless and efficient transfer of value. That's also going to require new payment systems. Maybe blockchain, will be the answer for how value capture is handled with these agentic tools. So this development of an A to A economy is going to happen through a number of stages. I'm not completely sure how that's going to play out, but we're going to start to see this displacement of specialized humans and their tasks and their roles by these agents. So I think that's going to be the first indicator as, oh wait, the more automation we get by these agentic technologies, that's going to be a little red flag. And we're starting to see that now. We're going to get to another phase where these agentic technologies can manage an entire business unit and eventually an entire business, so that you'll start to see a facilitation of direct agent to business. So in addition to the B2B, B2C, A to A, we're also going to have A to B. So we'll have a traditional business that would normally be handled by people. Well, an agent could be an A to B. You'll also see A to C in addition to that A to A. All right. You guys okay? Just take a pause here. Any questions on this so far? No questions? Please raise your Zoom hands while I grab a sip of water. This slide was for me. Not for you. It's like, are you okay? I don't care. No, I care. I care. I'm here for you. This is like, Todd, are you okay? No. All right. So what should I do? And last time I've talked about this in the agentic presentations, I've asked the same slide. This is the strategy questions. And I get asked this question constantly, not only from my students, and thank you all for coming, but from businesses and people that I consult with and many of the startups that I work with. What should I do? I'll tell you what you should do. Run for the hill. No, don't run for the hills. It's run experiments. That's what you should be doing. Running some experiments and figuring it out. Put on your entrepreneurial thinking cap. Testing business ideas. It's a great book from Strategizer. What should I do? Run experiments. Where should I run experiments? That we'll talk about. Okay, so uncertainty, the uncertainty effects, things are changing exponentially fast. So that means, well, what do I do? It's that black hole. I can't look into the future and plan for anything. It's really, really hard. So we got to look at chaos theory and uncertainty qualification and robust decision-making processes and scenario planning and real options thinking, and anti-fragility is another one that I was, while researching this, that came up. So all of these uncertainty effects, there are, believe it or not, there are some well-established frameworks for dealing with this uncertainty. So businesses and people really need to start to look inside of these frameworks for to see where they're applicable to whatever it is that your practice is. And again, it depends on your industry, it depends on your expertise and what your job is. Okay, Ambidexterity. So for those of you who are HBAPers, you all should know this and be you should be intimate with ambidexterity. You should understand what that is. For those of you who have not heard of ambidexterity, there's a couple of books, I'll have to dig them up. Lead and Disrupt and the Corporate Explorer from Mike Tushman and Charles O'Reilly. They're from HBS and Berkeley, I think. So this concept of explore and exploit, or because exploit has got a negative connotation, Tushman is working on renaming it to core and explore. What does this mean? This ambidexterity occurs at the leader level. Oh, I have another slide. It comes at the leadership role of an organization. So in the C-suite, for example, we need to have the business has to do two things at once that are diametrically opposed to each other. The business has to focus on its core and make sure it's servicing its current business customers and its future customers, and that it's running operationally, that it's making money. So it has to focus on the core. And if there's something out of whack in the core, the company's not going to be doing well. At the same time, and this usually applies for medium to large businesses, I should clarify that. Startups, not so much. So at the same time they're focusing on the core of the business, they're also looking to explore. What about the future? How can we explore other possible opportunities and other possible businesses, and how do we move forward? The great example of a failure case of ambidexterity would be Kodak. How Kodak failed to commoditize and shift the business from selling cellulose film to digital photography. Kodak invented digital photography. So the fact that they failed is like, how on earth could you possibly have screwed this up so badly? Well, they did. The reason they did was because the entire business was incentivized on selling cellulose. They could not transform their business into the digital future properly, and they ran out of money. They ran out of time. So this slide is from his book, Lead and Disrupt, How to Solve the Innovator's Dilemma. This is from the second edition. And what you're looking at here is this leadership team and these business units and an innovation unit. At this level is where we need to think about as how we should go about exploring that possible future. So this is a strategic piece of advice that businesses should be looking at. Create another innovation unit, an exploration unit. Okay, and they are separate from the rest of your core of the organization. And there are several operational units below, and what this dotted line here is referring to the information flow. Just to clarify this. This innovation unit, their goal in the age of agentic AI is to primarily do one thing, and that's to put the core out of business. Every cognitive task that every person does within the core of the business, the innovation unit should be looking to replace with agentic AI. And when a company successfully does this, when the leadership team says we're going to build an innovation exploration unit, and the mission of this exploration unit is to replace the core, they're not going to tell anyone in the core of the organization that this is happening. The moment that an employee of any of the other business units or operational units, finds out that the company has hired people to replace them, guess what they're going to do? They're going to quit. They're going to freak out. And it makes sense for that, obviously, because the goal of the business is to move forward without the current core of the organization. This is very scary. This is the bad news. I'm saying the bad stuff out loud, but this is what many companies, medium to large companies, are working on right now. Again, early adopters. So the information flow here, just to be clear on this strategy, the information flows one way towards the exploration unit, towards this innovation unit. So no one inside of the core of the business ever hears about anything but all of the data, all the emails, all the documentation, all the data, all the processes, everything that the core does is being fed into the innovation unit so that the innovation unit can automate as much as possible. And they're going to run these experiments. So I hope that that's clear in terms of that strategic ambidexterity that smart organizations are starting to follow. I have a slide here on, this is again from that Jagged Frontier paper, centaurs and cyborgs, that humans plus AI. So the cyborgs represent a seamless integration where humans and AI efforts are intertwined, and the centaurs are people who have a clear division of labor between themselves and the AI. And so they'll give an AI, the AI a tool, hey, do this, versus everything is happening all at once. That's cyborg versus centaur. So I'll put the link to the paper in the Zoom chat in case you have not read the Jagged Frontier paper. There's a quiz on Friday. So I guess the concept for that previous slide was just to bring you to that AI is augmenting you today and replacing you tomorrow. So keep that in mind. And as business leaders and as entrepreneurs, we need to be aware of these transformation effects. And so if we're entering this universe where the smartest person I can hire is not a human, this is going to have a significant effect in the world of this slide's out of order, out of open talent and open innovation. So just to clarify, open talent is, I would argue, a subset of open innovation. This is a great book from John Windsor. Let me put the link so that y'all can buy this book. My bad news for John, and by the way, Jin Pike is a HBS researcher. My bad news for John and Jin is that are we really going to be hiring people to do the tasks that are available on platforms like Upwork and freelancer.com and fiverr.com? Well, eventually no. So there's going to be, and we're starting to see some data shifting that, hey, certain jobs are now disappearing from the freelancer marketplaces. Why? Because we don't need them. We should say transforming is yes, transforming is tomorrow. It's today right now. So this shift from human freelancers to AI freelancers, that's that agentic AI. So where do we find those agentic AIs? Okay, that's an opportunity. If you can build an agentic AI that solves a problem, B2B, B2C, if you can pave that cow path using an agentic AI, you can charge a business for it. There's money and there's opportunity in that simple concept. So I'm definitely skipping ahead, but think about this open talent problem. I also have this slide on open innovation. If you want to get this on a t-shirt, you can buy one right here. But open innovation is about solving problems within the organization and innovating problems from the organization and moving that information flow inside or outside of the organization. So one of my hypotheses is that agentic AI is going to have a downward pressure on pretty much all of this. Because again, why would I hire a human to do any of this? Why do I need to run a challenge contest? Why do I need to hire a freelancer? Why do I need to license some intellectual property if I can just hire an AI to solve these problems for me? So that's something else to think about. How am I doing here? Okay, it's 8:48. So modularity effects. Okay, so, and I've mentioned this in one of the previous presentations, but I just want to mention it again. This concept of modularity that many of you may or may not have heard of, it's a design principle created, Carlos Baldwin, she's an HBS professor, she came up with this. It's a design principle where complex systems or products are constructed from small independent subsystems or modules that adhere to well-established design rules. So they allow them to function together as a cohesive whole. I guess one of the examples would be like RAM in your computer or a hard drive in your computer. It's a module. You can swap out the hard drive with a larger or faster hard drive. So those are modules, but these modules occur at all sorts of levels, not only in your products, but also in your services or within your team of people. And that to me is, oh, hey, a module of people. So if you have a team of people, on average, there's usually some well-defined inputs and well-defined outputs of that module. That is a location for you to start to experiment. So, hey, here's a module within our organization, or again, that, hey, I'm going to create a business that solves a modularity problem, and we're going to charge businesses to use that and solve that problem, that cognitive problem. That's an opportunity. It's a huge opportunity. So if you're in a business, run the experiment, look for the modules within your organization and run an experiment with your innovation team, your exploration team, run an experiment with your exploration team to see if we can automate that module. And again, keep in mind that the higher level modules are going to be much more complicated. The lower level modules are going to be much more granular and smaller. That's a better place, I would argue, to start to experiment. But again, it depends on the industry. It depends on the business. So look for any thinking or creative work within your organization or practice. Find those inputs and outputs, and search for that cognitive process within that module, and ask your favorite agentic AI coder to build an agent to see if you can automate that process. That's the trick. Okay, so risks. I love this. I've used this slide. There are absolutely no risks whatsoever with any of these technologies. I don't understand why people are concerned about ethics or morals or risks or going. There's just no risks. So we're not going to talk about any of the risks whatsoever. We could, just kidding, because we could spend hours talking about it. So I'm just going to simply minimize the risks, and the risks will go away. That is my absolute favorite slide transition ever. That is the greatest joke about AI you will ever experience. All right. That is my presentation, and I'm going to stop sharing, but I want to ask if there are any questions before I move on to the discussion. So I have some stuff here. So let me go to the questions, and then I will move over towards the discussion slides. But oh, Steve, you just raised your hand. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent, very thought-provoking, Todd. Do you anticipate the A2A will be self-initiating
No.
even?
That's a great question. Oh, that is a great question. How will it get, what's the inciting incident, so to speak?
Yeah,
I do not see this as being self-initiating. No, I think that this is going to be some very entrepreneurial people saying, yeah, that's a good opportunity. That's a good business model. And we're going to go do it. We're going to go build the agentic pipelines, the agentic infrastructure. You know what I just realized? I forgot to put together. There's a new. I saw a post of a group of people, a consortium, who are working on the agentic AI protocol. So we need a way for your agent to talk to my agent in such like almost like the same way we have HTTPS or TCP/IP or any of these, the Internet Engineering Task Force IETF protocols. We need that for agentic stuff. So that is being worked on. Those will be public.
right.
Those will be, like we have MCP right now. Okay, fine. Those types of examples, those types of technological things are being built right now. So I don't know if that answers your question, Steve.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think, kind of what if you set up some rules from both sides, and then it would be if those conditions are true,
Yes.
you would do X, Y, and Z, right?
I
So,
think that's the right thought process.
right. So if AT&T stock drops below X,
Oh,
Verizon is above Y. Um, the economy is at this number. Like you could have all these conditions,
so
and then it automates a process.
absolutely those, but and the example that you just gave, that financial trading
Yeah,
example,
that's just an example I pulled out. But
uh, 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 there are some significant problems that I'm with that, quantitative stuff that I would love to talk about. I'm probably not the best person to talk about
yeah,
that stuff. Mark Awada, the guy that I showed the Rembrandt photo of,
yeah,
he's the perfect person to talk about that because that's what he does.
right.
And so my thoughts on the financial stuff is because there's this stochastic component to it, this randomness, that things, in terms of the free market pressures, make it very challenging to do that. And there are systems in place that are analyzing all of that stuff in near real time. I think when it comes to the agentic stuff, we're going to see that happen, where decisions can be made in near real time because they are going to have the capabilities of making those decisions better and faster than any human.
Mhm.
I think that's going to happen across the board in almost every industry, not just financial.
Right. Exactly.
That's my
Right.
prediction. I'm probably wrong in that, so it's okay. Thanks, Steve. Susan, then we'll go to Victor, and then I want to go into the discussion. So,
Yeah, so I have a very basic question. Okay. Like we have a dual peak curve of people in this call, right? There's people like you, Todd, and Roland, and many others that are in this peak over here. And then there's me, and maybe there's a few other people that really don't know what to do next. Okay.
oh, panic! Definitely panic. Grab your towel.
I know. No, you know me. I want like steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to do. So
The,
what
I don't have
kind
an answer to that. I really don't. Because it depends on the business.
hang on. So have you seen any practical models or practical descriptions of if you're going to look at using agentics in your company, do these things?
Yes, that's my
Okay.
book. That's the book I'm writing. Okay.
Okay.
Because
But
I
while
don't think that exists.
okay, so while we're waiting for your book, do you have it
So
till then?
until the book is published, again, for me, the steps that you should do is kind of outlined that already. And that's it's the number one thing in my mind is to run those experiments and look for the modularity. So
So no, okay, so you're still on Mount Everest. I'm on the little ski hill in Wisconsin.
but
Okay.
the reason why I'm saying that is simply because I don't know where your modularity is. Every business, every organization, every ecosystem, every industry is going to have some other component, some other cognitive process within it. And so that's where I would start to look. The next step, step two, is to run that experiment. How to run that experiment is grab your favorite agentic AI tool and give it those inputs and outputs.
Okay. So I like Roland's. Take a deep breath. Yeah.
No, no, no. He's don't listen to Roland.
So bear with me a little more.
Okay.
Okay. You know my company. So if you were, let's say, if I hired you to tell us what to look at first, because I don't even know what you mean by modularity. I'm just being totally
Okay.
honest. Wisconsin ski hill versus Everest, right? Little bump. So,
So the modularity, that's the thank you for that. I guess I need to go back and really work on defining the modularity and what that means from a practical perspective. Um, and I blame Carlos Baldwin for writing two massive anthologies on the topic. But I think the from an agentic AI perspective, what I would look for is any process that repeats itself, any process that has a specific well-defined input and a specific well-defined output. Um, like if you're, I mean, here, like the example that I like to give, just because I have worked with it for so long, is advertising. So you have a team of advertisement. You have a team. You have the agency has a brand. They come to the agency and say, "Hey, we want you to create an advertising campaign." So there's a number of people who are working on that advertising campaign. There's a bunch of processes, steps. Some of it's waterfall, some of it's iterative, some of it's goes back and forth. But on average, any one of those people on that team has a specific task that they do that has a specific input. Something triggers something else to happen. Whenever you find one of those, oh, this is going to happen next, and this is the input, and that person's going to do a task, and this will be their output. Ding, 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 ding. To me,
okay.
that's the modularity. And now you're going to also, everyone's going to say, well, it depends because, well, this time I'm working on a Coca-Cola project and next time I'm working on, a Wheaties project. And so therefore, because they're totally different, everything changes. No, no, no. I
Right.
understand that everything changes. I understand that the inside is changing, but I'm only looking at what was in, what was out. That process and the decision-making concepts that are there is what we want to look at. Now, the other hint is to look at the more granular ones, look at the tiny processes, the little itsy bitsy steps. Why? I want you to look at the itsy bitsy steps because they're going to be easier to run the experiment.
Yeah.
And by the way, the other thing about modularity is the whole idea is that I can swap out one module, an old version of a module, with a new version of the module that's better, faster, cheaper, safer, and not affect the whole system.
Yep.
That's the idea. I'll say, okay, I'm gonna fire my brand manager and I'm gonna replace the brand manager with an AI because we can now automate all the stuff that that's a bad example, but you see where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to find, I'm just gonna piss off all my students right now because like the creative director, we're gonna get rid of the creative directors because AI can do all the creative stuff. Jenna's shaking her head, no, no. Yeah, because she's a creative director. I'm just gonna ruin her. So I hope that answers the question, Susan.
Yeah, it did.
All right.
Thank you.
Victor, what's your question? I want to go into the larger discussion that I've
Yes,
got a
thanks,
bunch of
Todd.
passion.
I'll be brief. You mentioned something that caught me off guard. The idea that there's work being done on I'll call it an interaction protocol between agents. And I'm wondering your first impression. Does this somehow have the potential, the great potential to constrain agentic AI?
Not sure I understand the question.
Well, AI is evolving to this cognitive level that surpasses humans.
Yeah.
But if we now tell it how to communicate among agents, we're doing more than putting guardrails on that. We're kind of predefining the elements of the conversation. Do I
I'm
understand it correctly, or is
I yes to an extent, but you know, I'm trying to think beyond those guardrails. Um, Simply because these agents, in my imagination, my vision here, okay, my forward thinking, let's look inside the black hole for a second. Uh, uh, I'm, it's the better, faster, cheaper, safer. It's all four. So if they are better, faster, cheaper, safer, assuming that they're capable of that, what guardrails are we talking about? Are there guardrails at that point? Meaning,
well,
because we,
that's the contradiction I'm kind of weighing in my
yeah,
mind, that if these agents are supposed to be cognitive, they should be able to self-direct the conversation and the communication and to get the outputs from the inputs, to get the inputs they need to generate their own outputs. Uh, Not to belabor the point of your model, but if that's the case, then why do we need any type of protocol to guide the agents?
okay, so that protocol that I was describing earlier, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay, that's just to get started, really. You know, at a certain point, we need something so that Victor's agent can talk to Todd's agent, and the two of them can converse. And by the way, like if you're a business and I'm a consumer, you know, and you're Pepsi and I'm Todd, and Pepsi wants to advertise to me, my agent has to talk to Pepsi's agent to see if I'm even interested in fizzy sugar water.
Mhm.
I might not be the right consumer for Pepsi. Does that make sense? So we need a
Yes.
way for these technologies and a platform, we need a platform for them to communicate and work with each other. So in terms of guardrails, I think that's going to evolve because right now I don't trust this stuff. I don't know very many people who do. That's why we're at the earliest stages of experimentation and we're just peeking into that black hole. You know, like, hey, what's it look like in here? I can't see what's going on. Should we trust any of this stuff at all?
Fair enough. Let's just say I'm anxious for the conversations a year and 2 years from
Oh
now.
yeah. Give it 3 months, man. 3 months. We're gonna do this again in 3 months, and it's gonna
All
be
right, I'll
better.
be here.
All right, Yvonne, and
Thank you.
then I want to go to my discussion because I've got some slides that we could do some notes on, and I've got a question for everyone.
Okay,
No,
this is quick because I'm gonna have to drop, but
no, you can't drop.
accepting your world.
Yes.
And now it's a world of agents, and so and maybe Donna can help with this, but I'm a company and I'm going to have now agent employees. What's proprietary and what's not? If I go through all this modularity and I figure out my processes, which is my secret sauce of how I do things, but let's say I don't build the agents. Let's say there's all these companies that are building agents that are going to be your workforce, but then you want to fire them. What protects me?
Well, oh, good question. Okay, in that, oh, yes. So that just, you know, like the same way you would hire an employee and you would give them access to your business processes, right? Is that the idea here? Or you're going to hire a freelancer, the open talent.
Let's say I'm going to hire someone to create agents for me. And I'm
Okay.
going to share all my secret sauce of how I do things and what makes it work for me. With employees, especially at the more senior levels and the more creative levels, that the more you have in certain, not California, but in certain states, you have restrictive covenants. You have certain protections as a business, especially as your business depends on the people, right? So now I'm going to depend on the agents. But the agents, let's say I didn't build them all in-house, because it makes more sense to have another company come in and do this agents. I'm sharing my secret sauce. And I'm completely dependent on those agents because my people, I'm replacing my people that I had restrictive covenants with, maybe, or certain other confidentiality. So I don't know. I don't know if this makes sense to you guys, but I'm trying to understand. We are at the point where we need to figure this out. Like, how do I think about this as you're working with companies or developers, or you're working within your company? What safeguards do you put? Because you could very inadvertently.
It's really important. So what I'm doing now is I'm using a contractor. So I'm just going to talk about, Canada, but it's probably similar in the States, is that if you got, if you have an employee and they create something, it's going to be assumed that it's your, it's your thing. If you got a outside contractor that's doing it, it's kind of assumed it's their thing. So what I did with the people I'm using to just do some automation and stuff is I had to redesign the agreement to make sure we made it clear whose property it is, because otherwise you are paying someone to create things, and of course they're going to steal it or use it or whatever. So it is hard. What are you using that? What are you making that's original and stuff? It's hard with employees as well, but you do have to have some agreements in place. Otherwise, you're going to pay to create something, and just as your employees want to steal it away, and that's why you have agreements, you got to have it with your contractors and stuff as well. It doesn't completely answer your question, but it's you got to watch what you're signing and create things to sign, so that you're just not paying to create competition.
Yeah, and also I just wanted to add something to what Yvonne was also asking for. So today, when you look at some of the tools that are created for agents, right? So like the different tools that are out there, bolts, or the different ones that people are trying to use out there. So if you're trying to use them, let's say, also just speaking from Canada perspective, like inside a bank, for example, one of the things that we've been doing is try to build gateway to ensure that when we go outside to these particular tools, there are specific information, right, that we have to provide. And then we kind of like protect some of the privacy and any other, regulatory things that we have to hide that cannot go to these particular models, right? But if you build in-house, which I don't think in the A2A business that Todd was talking about, I don't think businesses will try to build these because the cost of building will be a lot more, but they will try to leverage things that have been done out there by different startups and different companies, leverage them inside. So the way you do it is from the inside, you build gateways, you build APIs that you can actually strip out the key data that you don't want exposed to the world of internet, and then you can actually leverage some of the technology, which is what
100%.
people are doing right now.
I completely agree with that. Thanks, Maurice. I want to second what Donna said, because she's looking at this from the legal perspective, from the legal framework to protect what Yvonne is building. I think you need to do all of this technically, and it's going to get in the weeds, and just be cautious here, because now we're talking about, well, what's your business? What's your industry? What are the regulations? How do you work? Where's your data? What agent are you looking to build? And just to add to what Maurice said, I do tend to disagree with the like, oh, we're going to use an outside vendor. Well, why? Because at a certain point, it's going to cost us less and less and less to just roll and build your own. Unless you're like a Salesforce type customer, like if you're on Salesforce and you use Agentforce, and all of a sudden Benioff is like, hey, we've got a solution for you, but it's like $2 per conversation. That's unsustainable if you're a Salesforce customer. Yet they're hoping to capitalize on the fact that it's just going to be too hard for you to build your own. So medium to large businesses, well, they can afford to build and deploy an exploration team. That exploration team, Yvonne, would be your employees who are AI experts who can build it for you, and you as the company own this. That's the idea.
Yeah, yeah, I totally get that. But even in your example with Salesforce, right? Let's say you're a company, you're dependent on Salesforce. But right now, if I want to fire Salesforce, I can survive. I have employees who know what they're doing. They know how to take care of their clients. But let's say I go to the new extreme of Salesforce plus agents, and the Salesforce agents are now doing a lot more of what the people would be doing.
Correct.
Right? The leverage is on the side of Salesforce. The leverage is on the side of whoever's building this.
Correct.
And you're really changing the risk parameters within a business.
Yes.
And you're becoming completely dependent.
Yes.
It's like we're dependent on Google, we're dependent on the iPhone.
You're also dependent on the electric grid.
There's going to be a new entrance in the corporate world where companies, they can have the light switched off. So again, it's something that I just think it's at the crux of all of this. Everybody's running like crazy to implement this, but I think the implementation, I don't think we've ever seen this before.
No, we have not. This is happening so quickly.
Maybe in automotive, if somebody controlled the assembly line separate from the car company, I think that's the best example that I can come up with.
But understand, when it comes to Salesforce, and the reason why I use Salesforce as an example is because Benioff pivoted the company like on a dime. He had the vision, he was peeking into the black hole to that event horizon and was like, we have a problem here. Because he realized that because the smartest person you can hire is no longer a human, that if he didn't do something immediately, almost all of his customers could say on a dime, I'm going to build my own SaaS platform to replace the billions of dollars that we currently spend on Salesforce. That's the opportunity. So imagine Disney saying, you know what, we're big enough, we could spin up an innovation team, an exploration team to replace all of our services that we do through Salesforce. Salesforce, like many of these SaaS companies, have no moat. They have no protection other than the user interface and reducing the friction of their customers. And that's entrepreneurship 101. If you can find a problem and solve it, reduce their friction, you're going to keep customers. That's Benioff's opportunity, and it's brilliant. So if he can figure out the revenue model, which at $2 per conversation makes no sense to me, it's just not. You're incentivized to drop Salesforce with those pricing at the moment. I mean, we'll see how that plays out. But does that make any sense, Yvonne? Like, I think that.
No, it does. I mean, I totally get it. Why, if you're Salesforce, you're developing, like, no question on that. I'm just saying, think about every company that uses Salesforce. Right. They are now giving up such a big part of what they control to one company. And you're gonna have a winner. No, they haven't.
Oh, they haven't. Okay,
because I can switch CRMs, and it may not be as good as Salesforce, but I can switch, and I have people that still. But now I have the data and the actual activities controlled by, and I don't think you're going to have as many competitors. So I think that there are different considerations of because this is not just a new technology. This is, you are changing your organizational structure, and your 100%. Organizational structure, which has not happened before, is now dependent on this new players, this agent.
Yes. And that's exactly right. You're thinking about this in the right way. Now, I will push back on the Salesforce is creating a moat, because not only are they going to have your data, but they're going to have your agents that run your business for you. Again, in the age of AI, why would you do that? Why would you spend billions of dollars on Salesforce when you could spend $1 million building it yourself? That's what Benioff recognized. He understands that every single one of his customers can, if they so choose, leave Benioff. It's like Uber versus Lyft. I don't have to drive with Uber. I could drive with Lyft. There's disintermediation. There's multi-homing across the board with all of these SaaS companies. That's the risk to the SaaS business model, because agentic AI can replace almost all of it. Now, there are a couple of catches there, which we could debate in overtime, which is like the data itself. Yeah, we kind of need a data like, where's the data? Where's our like, I want that, but there are tons of vendors that could kind of handle that. So like, AWS, Elastic, Amazon, Google, like they all have some sort of data cloud that you could use. So it gets complicated. But I like that what you're thinking about. And I want to transition, if that's okay, into a conversation here. Let me see. Is this the right one? Hold on. Yes. Okay. Can you guys see this? So for the discussion, and I got a bunch of these, and this is just one of my favorite questions that I want to ask folks, is to forget what you know. All right. Because again, that's peering into that event horizon, past the event horizon, peer into the black hole, and it requires us to put on our thinking caps, think a little science fiction, think creatively. So for my students in the room, you are creatives, you have superpowers that many people who are focused on optimization really don't have that skill. We need to think forward. So imagine, forget what you know. Imagine you are launching your new business today from scratch, Yvonne. I'm cold calling you first, okay? From scratch. You're starting your business from scratch, completely powered by agentic AI. And how would your business look different? And I'm going to you, Yvonne, because you asked this question. I want to transition to that. How would your business look different if everything you did was agentic? I'm cold calling Yvonne. Are you there, Yvonne? Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't have a lot of activity that's modular as you described it.
Okay.
It's maybe if you're talking about, there are certain roles that put together pitch decks and slide decks and underwriting memos. That's the part that I could imagine you would use agent for, right?
Okay.
You're getting a diligence data room, and the agents can go in and pull in and create a diligence summary. They can go in and fill out an underwriting memo.
Okay, so nothing, you're saying that nothing that you do, none of the cognitive processes in your current business model could be automated, is what I'm hearing you say.
No, I think ultimately probably everything could with reasoning.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. I'm just saying, like, the low-hanging fruit of like how, when you think about agents and what could be done, those are the basic things.
Got it. Okay. Anyone else want to take a stab? Thanks, Yvonne. Again, the prompt here is, imagine you're starting your business today. We're entrepreneurs, we're startups, from scratch, and completely powered by agentic AI. How would your business look different? Victor, and then we'll go to David.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot to consider here, but the first thing that crossed my mind, Todd, is you would have to evolve pretty quickly from job descriptions to explicit instructions for each role.
No, this is a cognitive process.
Right, but suppose an AI agent decides that it needs payroll information to answer a question that another agent asks it.
Yeah, it could go look up that payroll information and make a decision and provide it to the next agent.
Right, but now payroll information is in the wild as opposed to confidential.
Oh, no. This is all internal. All of this stuff can be internal to your organization. So those boundaries that you were asking about earlier, yeah, it's all secure. Imagine that better, faster, safer, better, faster, cheaper, safer. So it's safer, it's secure. Your data is secure. It's not in the wild. It's running on your internal cloud.
Well, that's true, but you wouldn't want your organizational payroll scale and individualized data to be freely accessible throughout the organization indirectly through agents.
But there would be governance, okay?
The government, okay, so that's what I'm getting at. Is there, you would have to go to instructions.
Yeah.
The agent would have, to use your word, governance, to use my word, instructions, to say what it can and can't do.
Yep.
And it would have to be an additional instruction to abide by the instructions or be destroyed.
Yes. Okay. Instructions. Yes. And again, these are the architecture of these workflows and these pipelines, and this would apply in the analogy is, if you hired a person to do it, let's hire an agentic AI to do it. And the granularity of the task, of the role, of the job, job, role, task, that tree is what we're referring to here. So that is a fundamental aspect of this architecture. Does that make sense, Victor?
Yes, and that's exactly what I mean to say, is that that tree that you just described has to be brought into instructions that the agent can and will abide by.
Exactly. You're giving the agent a mission, okay? Meaning, hey, you're in charge of payroll, and the senior vice president agent is going to ask you, hey, you know what I'm saying? Like that's the kind
Right. But I guess just to close this statement, I'm differentiating in my mind the ability to, quote, automate a role versus this other conversation about high-level free cognition that an agent may have in the future, which has to be, I'll use the word, constrained into a role if it's going to succeed in the context of your discussion.
I love that. Absolutely. 100%. There would have to be constraints on the role somewhere within the granularity of that module, of that agentic task. Love it. Good thinking. David, then we'll go to Jose.
Yeah, I think that in this new environment of agentic AIs, what I will see is no human bottlenecks. What we have now, I believe that it's human processes that humans are performing, that eventually with the agents, at this time we rely on humans, so there is always a bottleneck on different processes. And with these agents, those bottlenecks will disappear, and that's huge.
Well, those bottlenecks, the current bottlenecks will disappear, but there will always be some other bottleneck that shows up, right?
Yeah.
All processes are bottleneck. So an example that I would add would be compute. Okay, there's always going to be compute energy. Like if we're talking about computers here and the complexity, those are some constraints that we would need to be aware of. Absolutely, I think that is fundamental to all of this. Was that it, David?
Yeah.
Yeah, the bottlenecks and something that we need to be well aware of. Perfect. Jose.
I just wanted to mention this thing where we're talking about like managing risks in a company, and when we're using agentic AI and that kind of thing. But like most big corporations and like, yeah, obviously the corporation you're working for, you don't want to be that person, right? But corporations generally would rather break things if it's advantageous to them, versus break things and then pay for the like just pay for the consequences. Like it feels to me like most of these AI companies and generally companies just want to take the risk, and if they need to pay a fine, they pay a fine, right?
Oh, you're talking about like a regulatory fine.
Yeah. I mean, I'm talking about like you usually want to take the risk. If you don't know what's going on, you take the risk, and then if you pay, then you have to pay, right? But if you don't pay, then you don't have to pay.
That's actually a brilliant thought process as well. It's like we always have to balance that risk. One of the definitions of an entrepreneur, which, dude, we're gonna do this next week, is reducing risk. Risk management as part of being an entrepreneur is one of the primary tasks of making progress is reducing risk. That's critical here. So looking at agentic AI, looking at this A to A universe, how do we go about reducing this risk? One of the ways is to run those experiments, look at the modularity, look at the inputs and outputs. Let's see if we can swap out this module with an agentic AI module and run the experiment. Watch it behave. Here's a person doing the task and what they do and what they've done over time historically. So we have data here. Let's create a module. Let's create an agentic AI module that replaces that person. How much risk? And then all of a sudden, you know, Todd, we've use this tool now that'll help you do this task, right? So you no longer have to worry about it. It'll take you, instead of it taking you 2 days or 3 days or 10 days to do whatever this task is, now we can do it very, very quickly. That automation is one example of reducing the risk, that risk management that you brought up.
But actually, I mean, I honestly, what I wanted to bring up was the fact that people don't, like, big corporations don't really care about reducing the risk. They just take the risk, right?
How
Like,
so?
okay, I'm going to give you an example. Facebook trained their latest LLM on a bunch of like research. Yeah, Meta was training their LLM on pirated research, right? They didn't say no. Like, everybody knew that they were doing the wrong thing, but everybody was like, yeah, sure, let's just do it, right? And have they paid anything for that? Maybe like a public facing scorn, but it hasn't like hurt them at all.
Well, not yet.
Not
yes,
yet,
that's right.
but will it? Probably not. I would say probably not.
Probably not. And again, I'm pretty sure that most of these companies spoke to their attorneys before they went down the rabbit hole of training their models. Adobe, because I love what you're thinking about here. The counterexample would be Adobe. They trained their diffusion models on copyrighted content that they had permission to do. They paid for the data that they used. Now, for better or for worse, currently Adobe's models relatively suck. They still work, but they're not as good as, or they're, as some of the other models that are available that said, we don't care about the copyright infringement problem. And again, I'm not a lawyer, so I should be very careful with saying this, but that's my understanding of the situation. They said, we are taking the risk that copyright law does not cover this use case, and it will, over time, get established in favor of the corporations who are making these AI technologies. I'm leaning towards that likely scenario. By the way, the counterexample is, well, why don't they just go to another country that doesn't have our copyright laws and do the same thing over there? There you go. I believe that the United States, the EU, the Western countries are not going to hand over to China, I'm going to say this explicitly, we talked about it last week, all of the intellectual property because nobody cares in China about Western intellectual property. That's happening. That's what we talked about last week. So I don't think that that's so much of a risk, but it is a risk, because the worst case scenario is they're paying $150,000 per infringement, for every copyright infringement. That would put these companies out of business. Yeah.
But right, like when the fine is payable, it's worth it, right? And there's so many companies that, generate like toxic waste, and the fine is not really a deterrent. It's just the cost of doing business.
Yes, I love that.
No.
It's the cost of doing business. I can't write.
The AUKUS.
Yeah. Thank you, Google, for autocorrect. I love it. Jose, good thinking. Lalita.
Hi Todd. So what I was thinking is like we are trying to come up with the ideas on how we can use agentic AI in our business. But I think basically we at some point we have to also think about the very nature of the business, because
Love it.
because Think about it like LLMs, like everything is possible just by talking. Previously, we were kind of like used to be having a model, or a model where, we do things by certain like devices, or using certain things, right? Imagine everything related to that is all gone. So think about, like, we have to come up with everything like a new, like, imagine that everything can be done just by talking.
Okay. So I'm trying to follow you. So everything can be, humans talk to each other. That's how one of our primary ways of communicating. So you're saying that an agentic AI would replace the talking, or the agentic AI needs to talk instead of people or with people?
So my idea is like the nature of the business. Like, say for example, I need to do a grocery, right?
Mhm.
So earlier, I used to go to the store, and then I'm supposed to get all those things, right? Now think about it. Now I'll just talk to an agent, say Costco agent,
Yes.
and I can just talk, and I give them the list, and everything is delivered to me at my home.
Yes. I love that. That's exactly the type of peering into the black hole that I want folks to start to think about. If Costco has an agent, I could just talk to the agent. I can also just click on the Amazon app or the Costco app and order my food. But let's go deeper. I want to push you farther. What if you have an agent? What if your agent, who is responsible, who has a moral and fiduciary responsibility to act on your behalf, meaning it's aligned with your needs and your desires, right? And your health. Your agent could look at your refrigerator, your smart refrigerator. It'll know that you need these foods. It knows that you need these medications. It knows that you need these services. It could then go on your behalf, negotiate them for you, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the nature of the business.
Right. So everything you think about like basic, just by talking, you should be able to get solve all the human needs. Like, even if I want to do any like, so this is related to the nature of the business which is changing, right? And the second thing is that one thing that is coming in my mind is that now, since the level of the work that we are doing as a total humanity, right, is totally changed because of the agentic AI. We have access to, I mean, like, the best knowledge all over the world.
Yes.
So are we limited to the problems that we are solving in today's business, or we are supposed to come up with the new horizon which has been never be resolved, some new discoveries and inventions, and come up with the things, right, that is never been done before, right?
That's right.
So that is what will be the space where the entrepreneurship will involve, right? Using this agentic AI. And the last thing I want to add is, ultimately it comes to a humanity, like how we are going to serve or solve the problems, right? So together we are able to solve the supply chain problem, the like poverty problem, the education, some developing countries, or some kind of a war or something like that, right? All those will be the problem areas which we can focus on as together, because since we have advanced in so well with the agentic AI frameworks that we are getting, that these problems can be solved.
Yep.
And the giants, right, the technology giants, like for example Nvidia, Google, and all those things, they're already giving us like a framework in which we could build this technology in an hour at a very cheap rate. Like, I have built a kind of like a POC which was under $5,
Nice.
under $5, and it was able to scale in a production grade with using the cloud network that technology has been providing. So with that ease, I think each and everyone is empowered now to come, like is empowered to solve their own problems. So I think it all depends on our own creativity, like as an individual, who you really are, and what you are bringing to a humanity or to a uh, like a overall world, what new
Love it.
things you can contribute.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you. Lily, that's exactly the type of thought process that I'm hoping to get folks to think about, empowering people to solve problems. All right, Kenneth's iPhone. I'm going to go to you. I want you to wrap this up. Tell me what your thoughts are on this, and I want to end. I've got to go through the last slides, and so Kenneth,
Okay.
you're up.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yes, this is me on my iPhone. Hi. So yes, so I'm trying to put myself as a business owner having agents as my employees, right? And I'm
Yes.
like, okay, let me think of, I work in software, so okay, let me think agile, right? So me being the CEO of the company, essentially, I'm like, okay, I have AI agents who are going to help me run my company. So I have to think like an engineer. I have to think systematically, right? I'm going to have some inputs and I'm going to have some outputs, right? But
Yep.
what's going to make me unique is how I configure my system, right? So, okay, using like the SLDC, we're going to create agents based on agile. So we're going to have a project manager, um, a scrum master, some
Scrum?
developers.
Sorry, I had to comment on Scrum.
Yeah, just as an example, right? So now it's going to be like, okay, and I'm going to have a feedback loop, right? If we
Yes.
really want this to be autonomous. So now me as a CEO, I'm like, okay, let's say we have a client and they want us to create them this feature for the software. Okay, me the CEO, I I am not dealing with that task because I'm CEO. Maybe I dealt with the negotiations, but now that it's within my company, my CTO AI agent is like, hey CEO, um, I've analyzed the requirements of the software they want us to build, right? And I've already sent it to my solution architect AI agents, right? And
Yes.
here's the estimate of how long it'll take the system to, possibly create this feature, right? And then having that feedback loop, you'll have someone that, tells you these things, right? So you can be like, okay, you take care of your role as the CEO and you're kind of orchestrating the whole thing, right? So
That's right.
now the question is, it's like, okay, as humans, we thought of like agile scrum being the best way we organize ourselves. However, now just like programming like paradigms, you're going to have situational systems that are the best use case for your business, right?
Yep.
So let's say you have an e-commerce business and you are supplying shoes for people in Toronto, right? That's going to differ from how you're going to set up a system to run an e-commerce business for supplying shoes for all of Canada, right? And I guess then the question would be, would the AI then be like, hey boss, we're getting more customers now. I think you need to like upgrade your AWS subscription
Exactly.
because we need more AI agents. We need an AI agent to do X, Y, and Z because it'll be more efficient and it'll save you money. So that's where I'm kind of like thinking about that.
That's exactly the right way to think about this. So, and again, I talked about Agentic AI in a previous presentation, which I think it's available on YouTube. But this is one of the slides from that software development team. All of the different people that you're describing, and this is not necessarily all of the people that you would need, but all of the different tasks, the subtasks, and the feedback loops that your software development team can and will be augmented, replaced, and transformed by all of this stuff. So let me shift over to, Kenneth, thank you for that comment. I'm just going to shift to the remainder of my slides. Bear with me while I switch over to that other deck. But again, I just want to reiterate that first of all, thank you for the comments and the thoughts. Just again, a reiteration that the AI bomb has already exploded, and we're just now starting to feel that blast wave. But this is the entrepreneurial mindset that I want folks to just keep coming back to. Humanity will not run out of problems to solve anytime soon. This is what we need to focus on. This is the opportunity, and now is the time to act upon this. And keep in mind that people are often overlooking the art of the possible. People are stuck in their businesses, they're stuck in their boxes. I want folks to imagine a future. Science fiction, put on your thinking caps, go creative, peer into that black hole, looking past that event horizon. Think about what could you possibly ask for, knowing the fact that these tools are smarter than all of us right now. Okay, so business and people are so focused on the exploit, the core of the business, that they forget to ask what's possible. The folks at Kodak forgot to ask, hey, what if we could literally replace our entire business with digital photography? Wouldn't that be great? They said no. They said no, it would be bad for us to replace our business with digital photography, not realizing that somebody else was going to. Some would argue, or I would argue, that that's borderline incompetent. For a while, Google was Kodaking the company. Okay, that was my big criticism of Google. They are no longer doing that right now. They are kicking butt. What they just released today with Gemini 2.5 is absolutely outstanding. They said, we need to act. They started to focus on the art of the possible, and they're starting to explore, and they're absolutely executing. So on that, I'm going to say thank you. I hope you all enjoyed this presentation on transformation effects, and that it got everyone here to start to think about that possible future. And again, because in the age of AI, the only future where we thrive is in our human relationships. So please do come to startups. Come hang out for overtime. I put my LinkedIn link in the Zoom chat, so please do connect with me. And that's it. I'm going to stop sharing. And are there any last questions, or we should end it and then we'll go into overtime?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Todd.
I'm going to stop the recording. All right, cool. I'll stop the recording, and I will see you all for the social overtime next week. And please stick around for overtime tonight.